So let's talk about how we would even get this to start looking like our code pen. I think it's important to note that we are currently in an HTML document, right? Doc type HTML, and we are coding in HTML syntax. What we need to do is bring in CSS coding inside an HTML file. So we have to tell the computer when we're going to start typing in CSS because it has totally different symbols, totally different syntax. It works completely differently. And so you can't just start typing CSS and hope that the computer is going to know what you're talking about. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the header. And we've done this before in the past. It's been a little bit, but we've created things where it has attributes. So you have a parent tag where you're saying, okay, like this is a header tag. It's going to function like a header. Here's all the things that it has. But I want to give you some more specification about what the header is going to do. And that's where you get to do an attribute. An attribute is inside the opening parent tag of the container tag, if it's a container tag, or it's just in the tag with the standalone tag. We see this a lot when we do images. We do an image, img tag, that's the parent tag, and then we do attributes like the source of it, where is the image coming from, the width, the height, other features of that image. And you can see up here that even though we haven't really talked about a meta tag or what it does, the meta tag is the parent tag, and then it has an attribute of char set to this value. So that's an example of an attribute with a value. We're going to do that for header. The attribute that we're going to do when we hit the space bar after the word header inside the tag, it's going to give you a bunch of options. And this is one of the best features about Dreamweaver. Because it is a WYSIWYG, it's going to try and help you figure out what kind of attribute would you like to include. It doesn't list all of them, but it lists a majority of them. Now, when I go in here, I can choose one of these options, but I know what attribute we want to do. We want to specify a CSS style for this header. So the attribute we're going to use is called style. This is the worst way to bring CSS code into a tag. And we'll talk about why in the future. We're going to go over the 3 different ways you can bring CSS into an HTML file and why you would do one over the other. But this is the best way to start describing it at the beginning. So we're going to bring in a style tag. And just like you can see up here in the character set, it goes attribute name equals and then open quotation mark. So hopefully this is coming back to you a little bit because we used to do image, source, src equals quotation marks, and then we tell you where to get the image from. In this case, we're going to specify a style. So first one we're going to see is background color, right? Now, if you recall when we were in our code pen, we were in a CSS box and we would name the header and then open up our squiggly bracket and start typing. We don't need to do that anymore because we're inside the header parent tag. So since we're inside of it, the computer knows this is applying to the header because it's the attribute of this header. So we don't have to call upon header. We don't have to open up the squiggly brackets because we've just done that essentially by specifying that we're doing a style. We just get to type our declaration and its value. So I'm going to put background. And you'll see that the second I start typing background, a whole drop-down menu pops up for a bunch of CSS options. And it knows I'm in CSS because I've got a style. It's kind of like it's figuring it out. And there are so many things that you can do with a background. But I'm going to do a background dash color. And then I'm going to go ahead and you can even see it's giving you like examples. It's lots of cool features in here in Dreamweaver. And we're going to get into that future. But then we're going to do background color, and we're in CSS now. Whatever's in these quotation marks inside of the style is CSS syntax. So I'm not going to use an equal sign. I'm going to use a colon just like I would in CSS. And what's cool is I can go and pick a color out of all these names and list everyone that has a name, or I could use the color picker, which would go grab the RGB value. So I'm going to go ahead and do yellow because that's what we had inside of the image on the web for our code pen. And I'm going to close that with a semicolon. And you'll see that if you're in split view, it's automatic up here. Now, again, if you're not seeing these things, you can always go to Window, Workspace Layout, and reset your workspace. If you need to, you're looking to do, if you're wanting to just look at the code, you can choose code up at the top. If you're wanting to see both at the same time, you could split it. And if you just want to see this live version, you can click live. I'm going to stay in split mode so I can see these, but we've now added a style, coded some CSS, inside of our HTML. And now we're speaking in two different languages for the computer to understand.